This is the Padua Podcast Network.
It's not something like, it's just natural for you to have dementia because you're older. That's not the case. Running Fever, episode 225. What is dementia? Feels like nighttime because it's dark out here. Took a fabulous picture. Hope it turns out. It's the first purple light in the sky over Lake Atalanta, and the lights along the walkway, and I've chosen to actually walk clockwise around the lake if you're a bird, counterclockwise if you're a fish. There's a runner. It's almost now on the 6 a.m., probably 5:55-ish. And yes, so on this side of the lake, there are streetlights. Streetlight type things. Lights. So I can actually almost see my notes even without the headlamp, which I'm wearing first time in a long time. So we'll see. Maybe by the time I get to the other side, it'll be light enough. Nonetheless, it's beautiful. It's 70s and very humid. Had a lot of rain lately. In fact, I came out here a couple of days ago, was going to do this podcast, and it started raining. So I didn't, because then my notes would get wet and probably become unreadable. Already seen 3 people, fishermen, runner and walker. Maybe with...
Good morning.
Morning. Thought it might have been a stroller or something, but it's like a walker. Walker with wheels. Not the kind you like push, I don't know. And it just rolls. It doesn't stop. It's okay. We're doing this series on dementia, and it's second in that series. This one is called What is Dementia? We're going to talk about what it is. So there are a group of brain disorders in which the patient experiences a loss of cognitive function. The name used for this group is dementia. So it's not one particular ailment, but a group of things, a group of ailments that have certain things in common. Cause is thought to be the deterioration of brain cells, and that's actually a natural process that occurs throughout our lives, but in people with dementia, the loss of these nerve cells in the brain called the neurons is far, far greater. A normal adult brain has about 100 billion of these. And there are some studies that indicate that at least one type of dementia shows no loss or no significant loss of neurons, indicating that other factors are at play. In fact, I couldn't find a reference that told me here's how many neurons a normal brain has, other than that estimate that I just gave you, compared to the amount of neurons in the brain of a person with dementia. Couldn't find that. But it is thought to be one cause of dementia. And a lot is unknown, and that's why it's such a troublesome thing. It's such a troublesome thing because if you don't know the cause and how things work, well, it's kind of hard to figure out how to fix it, right? It's important to note that, of course, this occurs over time, and although we do lose neurons as we age, dementia is not a natural part of aging. It can progress over a long period of time, and it does affect more people the older in age they are. But it's not something like, it's just natural for you to have dementia because you're older. That's not the case. In its earliest, mildest stages, dementia appears as a slight loss of brain function. In its late stages, a patient can be completely dependent on others. So the first symptom that appears is often forgetfulness. In the early stages, it's generally called mild cognitive impairment, or MCI. The sufferer may have trouble remembering things and finding the right words, but is still able to function on his own. Person with dementia may have trouble also thinking and solving problems. For example, a person might get lost in their own neighborhood. It's a good sign they have dementia. Or they may forget the name of a close friend or family member. They may also forget recently learned information and need help with everyday tasks. And there is another component as well, possibly. It's the thing when you're dealing with medicine, you're always talking about possibly this, perhaps, maybe, uncertainties. And we think of science as being this whole certain thing, fact and everything, but there are a lot of uncertainties, especially in a difficult to understand disease such as this. So they may forget recently learned information and need help with everyday tasks. Finally, there may also be personality change, an effect on the emotions. So it's not just your ability to cipher and calculate, but it's also an emotional disease. Or can be. It's widely believed that there is no cure for dementia, but there are risk factors that can be removed, and we'll talk about those in a later episode. And I've also mentioned the book, The End of Alzheimer's, which is, the author claims that no one needs to have the disease. And the title in the book is Alzheimer's, but again, this sometimes can apply to all types of dementia. So some of these risk factors are high blood pressure, smoking, diabetes, obesity. So, pretty, I mean, yeah. I mean, those are some of the biggest health problems that we have, right? So, in themselves, they're problems. They also indicate risk factors. But some of these are under our control. Of course, smoking, it's an addiction, but people have overcome addiction. It is possible to do so. Obesity, of course, is possible to overcome obesity, very possible. High blood pressure can be controlled. And diabetes is, you can't completely control. So that's hereditary. But there are also cultural contributions and I believe diet and exercise. I think we could probably have our nephrology nurse maybe talk about that a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, I should probably do an episode on diabetes. So dementia is a big deal. It affects over 50 million people worldwide right now. 10% of people develop dementia at some point in their lives. And it's becoming more common because we're living longer. It's about 3% of people between the ages of 65 and 74 have dementia. 19% between 75 and 84. And 50% for 85 or older. Yeah. So, I mean, we all want to live as long as possible and have a happy, healthy, active life right up to the very end. So this is especially important for us, right? Because we already know that we want to live into this long-lived, high-risk period. And so we got to do everything we can to avoid dementia. And I'll talk about okay. Let me just move on. So we want to live long and healthy. In researching this, I found it amusing that on the Wikipedia page there are several people depicted in drawings. Like here's a drawing of a person with dementia. And there isn't any mention of physical appearance in the text. So that's, I don't know, I found it interesting. So there are many types of dementia, and we will talk about, the top types in the next episode in this series. And we'll kind of go into the breadth of the disease and start digging down a little bit into the details of the different types. But this time we just wanted to introduce and talk about what it is. And now we know that dementia is a term used for a group of disorders having to do with cognitive impairment. That it's sometimes progressive long-term illness, and that the older we get, the higher at risk we are for having it. And again, it's a lot is unknown, and I kind of think that what the book The End of Alzheimer's indicated to me was that, at least in the case of Alzheimer's, there's just one type of dementia. It can start decades before it's really diagnosed. Even that you have dementia, much less what particular type of dementia you have. So it's not something that you have to say, well, I'll wait, and if I make it to 85, then I'll start taking steps to avoid getting dementia. No, it's too late by then. You've already developed the disease over its course of many years. So never too early to start. So we're going to talk about how you can do that, what to do in the next coming episodes, and I'm looking forward to it. Hope you are. And if you got the fever, then keep on coming back. If you don't have it, then go out and catch it. I'll talk to you next time on Running a Fever.